welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but still want to be its friend.
It's true. And I am Corinne Caputo, a writer and a funny person and a friend to the universe.
Aw, and a friend to me.
And a friend to you. Oh my God. Let me list all of them.
Yeah, Corinne's going to stop now and list every single person she's ever been a friend with.
That's our 100th episode.
Ooh, for the 100th episode, Corinne tells us 100 of her friends. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist and a folklorist and a friend to the universe. And joining us today, we have a fellow friend to the universe. It's another guest episode. We are joined by Dr. Renée James, who is a professor of physics and astronomy at Sam Houston State University. She's the author of multiple books like 7 Wonders of the Universe that you probably took for granted, and Science Unshackled, How Obscure, Abstract, seemingly useless scientific research turned out to be the basis for modern life. And she's joining us today because she just published her 3rd book, very impressive, Things That Go Bump in the Universe. Dr. James, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to add to your introduction?
To my introduction? No. Also that I am a friend to the universe. But
yes.
It sometimes doesn't seem to want to be a friend to us.
True.
The universe is mercurial in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But anything else you want to tell us about what you research or?
I basically chase after whatever shiny object captures my attention. And I happen to be, in an extremely privileged role at my university because they let me do that. And so, I can go from, okay, what happens if we change our introductory astronomy classes to incorporate, this particular strategy, all the way to what happens if I ask you guys to go to Australia for 6 months so that I can research a book.
Oh, nice. You traveled for research. That's exciting.
Yes, it was absolutely a fantastic time.
Yay. All right, so we're going to get all into the book and what it covers and a little bit of your experience writing it. But first, can you tell the listeners where we're recording this episode? It was your idea to bring us here.
All right, so you have to imagine that it's extremely dark and you're in a small town. And it's a little bit cool. You're walking down the street, past all the street lights, because you want to finally get a look at the stars. And you get to this overlook. As it turns out, you're in the mountains. But they're not mountains like you usually think of mountains. It's more like an incredibly lush, vegetated Grand Canyon type of thing. So you're up looking down, and you can smell the eucalyptus. You can hear the wind as it gently blows through the eucalyptus trees that are down in the valley. You hear a cockatoo do its little rack, even though it should have been in bed a long, long time ago. And you take a little path down so that you can get out of all the artificial lights. It's nice, it's cool. You look over to your left, and you see a familiar star pattern. You see Orion over there, except he's on his head. And you look up a bit, and you see Sirius. And then you keep following, and there's another bright star, and you see Canopus. And then you keep following that track, and you see this little fuzzy patch in the sky, and that's the Large Magellanic Cloud. And you just stand there and look at this little baby galaxy that is hanging in your sky as you look over to the south horizon, which is perfectly clear because you're at the top of this overlook, and you see Alpha Centauri. And you see the Southern Cross also upside down, because at this time of year it's really, really low in the sky, and you can't even see its head because it's just below your horizon. And this is where we are. It is beautiful, it is dark, it is quiet, it's just you.
That is so beautiful. I want to listen to that every night.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted.
While you were describing this space, I was like, if this whole astronomy thing doesn't work out for you, you could really do like soothing sleep stories or like
100%.
ASMR things.
I know. I'm like, Renée, I'm going to need to call you every night and be like, give me 5 minutes and then I'll probably be out.
Yeah, we're done with that. No, this is
in the most soothing way.
This is literally what I did last night.
Oh,
Oh, that's
well,
so beautiful.
yeah, thank you for bringing us here. This is the perfect setting to talk about your book. Again, it's called Things That Go Bump in the Universe. And then, because we're astronomers, we love a subtitle, How Astronomers Decode Cosmic Chaos.
Right.
What has your relationship with the universe been like to lead you to writing multiple books at this point, but this one now? So what got you into astronomy, and what's your story?
So when I saw the name of the podcast, Pale Blue Dot, I went, hey, that's that Carl Sagan thing. And Carl Sagan is absolutely what got me into astronomy. When I was in 6th grade, Cosmos came out. I was unaware of the book at the time, but the television program was running every Sunday night for a while, and my parents said, hey, you should watch this, right? This is when, you didn't have 5 billion options and you were saturated with things that you could be watching. It was a fairly limited number. And in retrospect, that was amazing because, hey, this looks pretty cool. It's about space and stuff. Let's watch it. And I was absolutely hooked. I was like, holy cow, there's so much stuff out there. And also, I want to do what this guy does.
Yeah.
Carl had that way, didn't
Yeah.
he? Just making people want to be his friend and do what he does because he made it seem so majestic.
Absolutely. And he was very much the friend to the universe, right? And he's like, here's how you can be a friend to the universe too. And oh, by the way, it's not just a thing out there, it's a thing in here. Mm-hmm. Which really sealed the deal because it just, I think some people just think the universe is out there and then they're not part of it.
Yeah, we
Renée,
talk
you're
about
speaking
that.
our language.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, and I think I have been guilty of this plenty of times. Of that is something else that's happening, and I am here, and it's kind of overwhelming to think of the scale of the universe, as we all know. And I think that's why people are either so intrigued by it or pretty averse. Don't involve me in that at all.
Yeah, that's scary. Please stop.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to study astronomy? Because that's a leap from being interested in it in the cosmos
Pretty
sense.
much then.
Oh, nice.
There were two things that I wanted to do while I was working my way through high school. Well, working just in the subjects, not never had an actual job when I was in high school. Much to my dad's dismay, who always got on my case every summer because he'd be like, "When you're in the real world, you'll never get summers off." And now I'm like, "Ha!"
Yeah, the ultimate hack.
Jokes on you.
So I was really fundamentally interested in two things. One of those things was writing. I really enjoyed writing. I would say pretty good at it for a teenager, but, I wasn't going to be publishing any of that stuff. But I was also really interested in astronomy. And, as the years sort of progressed, it became very apparent that I wasn't going to just become an astronomer by doing a lot of it on my own, right? Mm-hmm. But you could very much become a writer by reading a lot and doing that on your own and just tweak your style and such. But the thing that really, 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 really sealed the deal was when I was finally graduating high school, going into undergraduate and announcing my intentions to the family, hey, I'm going to become a physics major and I'm going to do the astronomy focus. And my brother just laughed, and he's 2 years older than I am. He said, I'll bet you $10 you cannot be a physics major. It's too hard.
Oh my gosh.
Rude.
That's it, boy.
That's just extra fuel, honestly.
Absolutely. So we wrote it down, right? I kept this little piece of paper
Yeah. I hope that you got that $10.
I did. I got my $10.
Good.
Good.
It was very satisfying. I also dedicated my master's thesis to him, to my big brother, who told me I could physics major, neener. Literally put the neeners in there, so.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I love a sassy dedication for sure. What was your thesis research on? Have you always been into transients and these bright flashes?
No, actually my research when I was doing my master's and PhD was about stars that didn't do anything interesting at all, ever. I would get their spectra and I would figure out what they were made of. And I would also use that information to figure out how they were moving in the galaxy, because the sort of overarching theme was to see, this was back before we had an enormous amount of evidence that parts of our galaxy had been sort of accumulated over time by absorbing little baby galaxies and clusters and things. And so I would find evidence that, hey, these stars are moving basically the same and they have the same weird chemical compositions, and so they probably came from another thing. And so it was interesting, but I didn't really find it interesting enough to keep doing it.
Yeah, I got really excited when you were describing it because one of my research projects in grad school was to do chemokinematics of moving groups of stars.
Oh, there we
go. It seems, yeah. And I also wasn't interested enough in it to devote more time to it after I did the project. But it was a valuable thing to learn while I was doing it.
Right. I think I might have, depending on how things had gone, but then I was fortunate enough to get a position at my current university, which is Sam Houston State University. And we didn't have, and we still don't have, a graduate program, and we don't have an astronomy major. And so I found that the vast majority of my time was spent reaching students who were taking basically the last science class that they would ever take. And so, it was exceedingly difficult to try to find anybody that could maybe do like little summer research projects because the background wasn't there. And it occurred to me after several years, I really need to shift my focus. I need to be focusing on this population of students that I've got. So that's where I started with some of the education research things, and then trying to explain things to students who have no math background. I start to realize, hey, I've got a way to say these things that actually make sense to them. And so then that's when, sort of the writing took off as well.
Nice. And you got to merge your two loves.
Absolutely. If I could go back to 15-year-old me and go like, hey, you got, books and articles and all this stuff, and you're still doing astronomy, my 15-year-old me would have been like, wow, you look old.
Oh, yeah, that's what 15-year-olds are like. But she also would have been like, wow, I'm going to be cool one day. She would have been very happy about it if she believed you. I don't think 15-year-old me would believe it. Actually,
I don't think
I was very skeptical.
Yeah, same.
But talking about the merging of your two early loves is a great segue to talking about the latest thing that you have written for like a public audience, and that is this book, Things That Go Bump in the Universe. Can you tell us what the book is about and what it covers?
Okay, in a nutshell, it is not about the things that I studied for my PhD. This is about all that misbehave.
Yes, the cosmic chaos.
Yes. And I mean, some of them don't necessarily misbehave. You've got pulsars. These are these incredibly compact, city-sized atomic nuclei, right? And they're spinning around and they make beautiful timekeepers. And so in that regard, they're not misbehaving. But they're certainly doing something that took people by surprise. Right. And so virtually everything in here is stuff that took people by surprise. Like, oh, hey, there's a new dot in the sky. What the heck is that? So you get into supernovae, oh, hey, we've got radio astronomy now. And there's a thing that's doing these weirdly regular blips. What the heck is that? Oh, then those are pulsars. And then, oh, my God, there's a dot in the sky and it seems like a star, but it also has a really big redshift, which means it's way the hell out there, and it's pumping out so much energy that can't even be possible, right? Boom, take you by surprise. Fast radio bursts, things that pop off once and you go like, oh my God, what is that? Gamma ray bursts, right? When we finally got gamma ray eyes in the sky, all of a sudden we get these things that last from a fraction of a second to a couple of minutes. We're going, oh my God, what is that? We're all the way up to the gravitational wave discoveries, where again, we knew we were going to be picking up a thing because we had theories and evidence and stuff, but then those continually are taking us by surprise. So it could have been things that take us by surprise in the universe, but things that go bump sounded more fun.
Oh, yeah. And also, all of your chapter titles are so fun and so good.
Oh,
so fun.
My favorite is Don't Blink, because it's got a nod to the 10th Doctor in there, and I'm like secretly hoping, and it gets hold of this and goes, this is brilliant.
And it opens just to that page, and he's like,
yes.
My favorite is, I like Cloudy with a Chance of Neutrinos as a title especially because I was such a cloudy the chance of meatballs person.
Yeah. And this has got, sort of the double meaning because cloudy, it was a supernova that happened in the Magellanic Cloud, the Large Magellanic Cloud. And I think these are the things that come to me in the middle of the night as I'm trying to get to sleep. And then that's a good time.
Do you write them down when that happens? Because I feel like I usually lose. I'm like, oh, that was the best idea in the world. And I have yet to write it down.
I've got notes on my phone. My phone stays, on my side table at night. And so, leery-eyed, pop open the little notes thing and scribble stuff down and then hopefully remember it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't remember it without writing it down. How many iterations did you go through for the title? Was this the first thing that you proposed? The first title you proposed?
I had a couple of ideas to begin with. One of them was just boom, exclamation point. And then the subtitle being, the most energetic things in the cosmos. But then I realized that not everything here was the most energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one was also, competing for brain space at the same time. What took the longest time was persuading the publisher to go with this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're like, no.
What was their pushback?
Well, they wanted the search algorithms to grade it for something about astronomy. This would pop up, and just the one main title, it wouldn't work. And then we must have spent 3 days working on that one little subtitle bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How astronomers decode cosmic chaos, going, but chaos kind of has a specific physicsy sort of, and they're like, people don't know that.
Yeah, they're like, it doesn't matter. This is what Google's going to take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The fine tuning at the end is always, it can always be really frustrating for the creator. There were like 10 emails back and forth trying to decide on a specific pronoun to use for the title of my book. So yeah, they can get really in the weeds.
Yeah, it was surprising.
You said that the stuff covered here is not what you researched in grad school.
Not by a long shot.
So why did you want to write a book about this stuff now?
Yeah, as you guys know, I'm currently sitting in Blue Mountains near Sydney, Australia. And back in 2012, I made my very first trip to Australia and just went, oh my God, this place is amazing. The sky is amazing. This is so cool. I didn't do anything really with that. I had taken a study abroad class over with me, largely so that we could all go to Australia, right? See the sun, sky. The transit of Venus happened, and so we got to observe that. And I absolutely fell in love with the place. And when I had a sabbatical due, I went, I have got to figure out a way to get back over to Australia. And so I, started scouting around and got in touch with Rob Hollow, who is the education manager, she says with great authority, and I know I messed up this time. He's at CSIRO in this little suburb north of Sydney, the astronomy and space science people. And so, he says, okay, well, you can come on over and you can talk about projects and you can hang out here and see what sorts of things we're doing. And CSIRO, Astronomy and Space Science, has a huge radio astronomy contingency that, they're looking at pulsars largely. They've got this huge pulsar group. So I got a sabbatical over early 2016. Do you remember what happened around February 11 of 2016?
Oh, the gravitational wave.
The gravitational wave announcement. And so one of the people that is working with the Australian Gravitational Wave Research Center came to give a talk that day. And that was Paul Lasky, who's featured in a couple of the chapters. And I just watched that and went, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Right? We literally have just opened up an entirely new window to the universe. And it's cool. And at that point I went, oh God, gravitational waves are so cool. Pulsars are cool. Oh, what else are you guys doing? Fast radio bursts had popped into existence as far as we could tell observationally. God, you guys have so many cool things that you're looking at. And I just went, that's it. I got to write a book.
So you've been working on this since 2016.
It has.
Like that's when the initial idea came into your head.
That's when I first got inspiration for it. I mean, life happens and I never really got very far with much of it. I wrote a couple of baby articles about pulsars for for the 50th anniversary in 2017, and gravitational waves when we hit the 5th anniversary of detection. So that would have been September 2020, and that sort of thing. And it didn't start to really gel for a while. You know how that sort of thing goes, right? You get little snippets of ideas, and then eventually you go, you know what, this is a lot of stuff. We can make this into a book.
Yeah, it slowly coalesces.
Yeah.
Much like a galaxy over
Yeah,
time.
basically. Yeah. Grabs a bunch of little baby galaxies and ideas.
Hey friends, it's Moiya. Corinne and Renee went off to investigate an interesting but non-threatening sound that we all heard in the bushes. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our patrons who support the show every single month. Really, we could not continue to make this show without you, so thank you. But especially thank you, as always, to our sun-like stars, Sharn Llewellyn, Lissa, Scott Reynolds, and Ian O'Leary. You are all golden. You are G's. Because you're G-type stars. Get it? Because that's what type of star the sun is? Okay, I'm just going to move on. Thank you. Thank you as well to our latest pre-main sequence star, Connor Halpin. You have just joined an amazing group of people. Thank you so much. You, too, listener, can support us. You can hear your name on the show, and you can make it to our patron star chart all by supporting us on Patreon for just about $1 per episode. And we are now offering annual memberships. So if you sign up for a whole year up front, you actually end up getting a 13% discount across the entire year. That is 1% for every constellation in the ecliptic. You can find our star chart, our Patreon info, and more at our website, palebluepod.com, or go right to patreon.com/palebluepod. We would really appreciate your support financially. Although we recognize that that's not something everyone can do, and that's totally fine. If that's you, we love you very much. You're still space, so the universe loves you too. There are other ways to support the show. You can rate and review us on whatever podcast app you use. I love reading every single one that comes in, so please go do that. You can also share the show with your friends. So pick an episode that you love and send it to someone who you think would also love it, because word of mouth recommendations are one of the best ways to help a podcast grow. I have a podcast recommendation for you. This is, of course, another show in the Multitude Collective. It's a group of independent podcasts, and one of those podcasts is called Tell Me About It. I think you'll enjoy it. It is a game show about proving that the things you like are actually interesting, and it's hosted by Adil Rafai, who you may have heard on Hello from the Magic Tavern and Hey Riddle Riddle, and, of course, Multitude's very own head of creative, Eric Silver. Adil is an eccentric billionaire who forces guests to come on the podcast to prove that their favorite thing is interesting and cool, and specifically more interesting and cool than his favorite thing, which is the movie musical Grease from, the 70s. Through a series of wild games and challenges put together by the audio butler, Eric, guests are scored based on the quality of their answers or whatever Adil is feeling at that moment. It's very Who's Line. The points don't really matter, except I want them to matter because I got, 5,000 points when I went on the show. I talked about exoplanets, which we all know is something I love dearly, and it's definitely cooler than Grease. You can think of Tell Me About It as podcasting Taskmaster, or as an in-depth conversation about something your friend is super into, mixed with hunting humans for sport, because Adil is a weird billionaire. The high scoreboard is filled with some of your favorites in podcasting. There's me, of course. There's Janet Varney. There's Jenna Stieber, Jeffrey Craner, Matt Young, and more. New episodes of Tell Me About It come out every other Thursday, and it is the most fun podcast run by a multi-billionaire. So check out Tell Me About It wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Corinne and Renee are coming back. It looks like it was just a moth flapping in the bushes. Who doesn't love that? So we'll get back to this episode now that we know for sure we're not in danger, and it's just a cute little winged creature. What do you hope people get out of the book when they read it?
One, I hope that they see, because one of the things that I tried to take great pains to do was to present not just the things that are going on in the universe, but the people who are discovering and theorizing about these things. And I want them to understand that the astronomical culture is filled with people. And they're really fascinating people, and they're doing things, and they're creative, and they're, just wonderfully excited about the stuff that goes on out there. So I want people to understand that astronomers are not these untouchable people at the tops of mountains and, who speak different languages. They've got neat stories, interesting backstories. I always ask what got them into astronomy, and there were a few of them that didn't get into astronomy until they were undergraduates, and they were taking an astronomy class.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. And then to me, that was kind of weird, because if you know tons of astronomers, a lot of them are, back in middle school or high school, I read a thing, but there's a lot of tracks to get there. So that's one thing I want people to get out of it is, get to know some astronomers. And then the other thing is the universe is, despite the fact that you're sitting out on this overlook in the mountains with the eucalyptus breeze blowing, and everything looks quiet, and everything looks still, and everything's very calming. There's a demolition derby going on out there.
That is such a fun way to describe it.
Yeah, things slamming into other things. I mean, all the time. You got things exploding all the time. You've got these things that are, basically adjusting their crusts and spitting out billions of years of sunshine worth of energy in a couple of seconds. You got this stuff all the time. You can't see it.
Yeah. That really makes it feel like there's something for everyone here in the universe. Like, if you are drawn to, emotional stories, here's the people behind it. If you're drawn to, superhero movies, here's the action.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the race. The race is on to understand these things. And then there's a whole chapter devoted to, here are the things that might or might not kill us in the next decade.
Yeah.
just real quick, how many things fell into the might kill us category that you wrote about?
For this one, it was just a couple, really.
Just a couple.
If there's some sort of undiscovered, highly magnetized neutron star that's relatively close, it still gives you quite a big buffer, which you would think would be a big buffer zone, a few thousand light years, and it could just be kind of hanging out there, and then all of a sudden, if everything's just right, it adjusts its crust or whatever, something catastrophic happens to the poor thing, and it blasts out gamma rays that, kill us.
All right.
The sun is our biggest fear, though, right? We had just a couple of nights ago a really strong solar storm that slammed into us, and you could see the aurora down pretty far south and pretty far north, and it was raining in Melbourne, of course.
Aww,
but people
just your luck.
Yeah, people that don't typically get to see the aurora got to see it because we got slammed with all of these charged particles. And that's just a tiny, tiny little hint of what the sun can unleash on us. Right? It could stop us in our tracks.
Oh yeah, we're not huge fans of what the sun's capable of here.
Yeah,
that is true. This is historically an anti-solar podcast.
Oh,
Look, we love the sun and how it's
casually.
great it's made our lives, but we're on to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We feel, ironically, that the sun is just a little shady.
Yeah.
Exactly. It has the ability to do a life-changing bait and switch. Like, hey, I'm keeping your plants alive and keeping you nice and warm and hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
There goes your entire civilization. Sucks to be you.
Exactly. How did you choose to organize this book? Was it from most to least deadly, perhaps?
No, actually, it was. I've always wanted to know how we got to the state of knowledge that we have gotten to. When I was doing my master's and PhD, I was just so terribly afraid that I did not understand things at the most fundamental level. It wasn't enough for me to go okay, I got a spectrum and you do the things and here's your answers. Well, but why? How did we figure this out? So I spent an inordinate amount of time, scraping back through the literature to figure out how we knew what was the tiniest little scrap of the project, which probably is related to some ADHD on my part, but, that's okay.
Relatable.
Yeah. And,
relatable.
I didn't want to get up and say something and not know why I was saying it, right? I didn't want to just parrot the things back. And so, I've always had a habit of going back basically to the beginning and going, okay, when did we first see these things? how did we first see these things? What was our first explanation of these things? And so we go all the way back thousands of years ago. And that's the beginning of the book, trying to find when was the first time that people started actually mentioning that the sky was doing something different. And so it, works its way basically historically through our understanding of things. But we do spend an inordinate amount of time in the 60s and 70s when we finally got like new eyeballs for the universe. Radio astronomy had gotten, its feet under it, and gamma ray astronomy was becoming a thing, and, anything that we had to put stuff in space for. But yeah, it largely is come with me and let's talk about how we got to this level of understanding.
Great.
The very end is the very last thing that will ever pop off in the entire universe ever.
That makes sense.
It's a good way to end it.
Well, we kind of talked about this before, but I am super curious about the thought process in the chapter titles and overall book title.
Overall book title, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, well, how can we tie all of these things together? And it's, again, these things that surprise you, it's a jump scare. And that sort of encompassed it all, gave it sort of that little bit of a horror story.
Yes.
The surprising thing. But it's not supposed to be scary, right? It just, here are things that don't just maintain the same observational qualities. As for the chapter titles, they kind of bounced around all over the place sometimes. Some of them that came pretty much instantly, like for whatever reason, Cloudy with a Chance of Neutrinos. It was just one of those things that I went, this is the title of this chapter. And
sometimes it's just a fit.
Yeah, the quote at the beginning of that chapter came from the movie Lady Hawk, and that had been in my head for some reason. I'm like, you've got to put this in there. Yeah, I mean, most of the time it was after I had gotten some of the writing done with it, and I'm looking at it, what is tying this together? And there were a few of them that just I stared at and stared at and stared at and went, yeah, let's call it star-shattering energy,
Sure. It does feel like the perfect... Like, if you're picking the book up, not knowing it, seeing it on a table, it is like the most, I think, intriguing title where it is not scary. It just makes you feel curious, along with the chapter titles, too, which is obviously a great way to get new readers and a new audience. And I feel like you really nailed that part.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully. Although I did have a lot of fun with the Fast Radio Burst chapters because they feature in cats, rats, and fantastic beasts and how to tell them apart. And then
yes,
Furby's A New Hope.
And there's a second Furby's chapter.
The Return of the Furbies.
The Return of the Furbies.
Which is my favorite chapter title. I think more people need to know about the Furbies.
Well, that's honestly, okay, if you are going to have sort of an informal name for a thing going on in space as a Furby, you're asking for chapter titles like that.
Yes, absolutely. And you're asking for people to be kind of excited about it too, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, they have been such a puzzle since they first found them. We got, this sudden and extreme radio signal from a thing. You can't triangulate on it because it's one of these things that it happens and then it's gone. The cosmic firefly motif weaves its way through this quite a bit because if you have ever tried to catch fireflies, they flash and then you're like, okay, it's over there.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't flash again, you're out of luck because, it's gone. And that's what a lot of these things do. They give you the one flash and you go like, okay, it was over in that general direction. And now that's as good as you can get.
Leaning back on how it's simultaneously awesome and unfortunate that astronomy is just an observational science. We're just left to the whims of the universe and whatever it wants to show us.
Yeah, but it's actually been remarkably helpful. The universe is like, hey, I got all these crazy mysteries for you, but hey, I've also put all these little signposts out there for you, like their candles and your standard rulers, and with gravitational waves now you've got your standard sirens, things of known quantities, a known size or a known luminosity that you can use to probe the rest of the universe. And it just seems like, it's just left all these little breadcrumbs out there for us. Like, hey, I'm going to be all crazy and mysterious, but also I'm going to give you these little Easter eggs, right? It feels like sometimes like you're playing a video game, and if you just know the little secret cheat.
Yeah. It feels like the ultimate kind of dinner party mystery game.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate version of this.
It just costs billions of dollars and needs people to pull it off. But other than that, it's exactly the same.
Digging deeper than the titles of the chapters, writing the chapters themselves, was there any particular chapter that was harder than others to write for you?
The ones where, I'm dealing with things that are much, much more historical, things, going on in the 1880s to 1930s, and there's nobody from that era that I could talk to, right? Mm-hmm. So, it requires digging back through people's writings, and sometimes that it's a little bit dry. So, trying to pull personalities of the scientists out, from those eras, along with, what they were finding out, that was probably the most challenging part. Because once I start talking to the people involved with the research, they tell their story, and then it's just a matter of, weaving that into astronomical discoveries and such, and that made it so much easier. So, with the exception of the very first chapter, where I'm talking to Dwayne Hummaker, who's an Aboriginal astronomy researcher, that one was relatively straightforward because, again, I'm talking to a person who knows this material, and he took me out to this really, really cool site where there are these carvings that are thousands of years old that have to do with astronomy, right?
So cool.
You just, you're looking down at these rocks and going, oh my gosh, that's astronomy. Somebody thousands of years ago carved this here as a sort of observatory. So that one was pretty straightforward. But then the next few, it's a bit of a dance to get the science across in a way that doesn't feel like you're reading it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Sure does. It's a skill, and you have the skill. So.
And then, once we get into pulsar land, then it really just took off.
Took off in terms of the amount of historical data?
No, in terms of being able to find people that's what they're working on, asking their experiences.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Historical research is really hard. I'm starting to do a bit of it now, and people's handwriting was so bad. And that's like the least troublesome thing about doing historical research.
What word is this?
Yeah. If you're doing anything before spelling was standardized, you're just good luck to you.
Yeah. Some of the flourishy script is a little bit parsed out.
What about the chapter that was the most fun to write, or chapters?
One of my favorite ones was Point Blank, and that is the universe has us in its sights. Here are the things that could kill you. It's great to jump into a project like this where you really don't know anything, right? So you have to ask those incredibly low-level questions, and then you find out just all sorts of crazy stuff that the universe is doing. I definitely enjoyed the chapter that was not the end, which is largely about type 1a supernovae and how they form, and two, what they told us about the expansion of the universe. And for that one, I was interviewing, for the most part, that one was based on an interview with Nick Sunseth, who was part of one of the teams that discovered that accelerating expansion of the universe.
So cool.
Like, he prefaced the whole thing by telling me about how Alan Alda almost died on the mountain when he was observing, right? And I'm going, oh my God, that's crazy. Tell me this story. Mm-hmm. So that one was a fun one. And then the very last chapter, the last hurrah, about the last exploding thing, that will ever happen, that happens 10 to the 33,000 years from now. And that was just, to me, I'm just going, holy cow, this is crazy. Why is the universe like this?
The long-term fate of the universe is wacky to think about. Just like truly incomprehensible numbers, in my opinion.
But Matt Kaplan, who's the one that I interviewed for that, is just an absolute blast to talk to. He's just so enthusiastic and so energetic, and he's talking about these things that nobody will ever observe. Ever. And, there's no chance for him to verify this particular hypothesis about, what's going to happen to these black dwarfs in the deep, distant future. But, it's still a really cool topic.
I'm glad there are people trying to answer those questions, because I think it will also help a lot of people who are overwhelmed or intimidated by the universe to have an expert say, this is probably what's going to happen a long time from now, just to make it less mysterious. I think the mystery is what makes it scary. I think to the average person, it does. Like if they're willing to trust that the expert is like, I've done my math and my research and this is what's most likely to happen, I think a lot of people can find comfort in that.
I think my fear transfers to, oh my God, I'm such a small blip. Where like I'm no longer afraid of how large the universe is. It's more of like, oh my God, and what's my significance?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that you just reminded me of is the number of these sorts of questions that were asked by students, right? The thing about what the last supernova in the entire universe might be like was prompted by, a student just asking a simple question, because students know what we don't know. And that's something that pops up quite a bit, as you go through the narratives in the book, is that sometimes, you get these questions that people want to search for because of, those naive sorts of questions from students that, they're not afraid to ask, well, what happens if it's not? Or why is this thing like this? And people go, well, let's go find out. But also, one of the things about the scope and size and age and everything of the universe that I always try to convey to my students is you've got this 3-pound blob of stuff in between your ears. And it has, for whatever reason, the capacity to understand anything. You can understand the laws of orbital motion, or you can understand nuclear fusion, and the fact that it can understand anything is kind of miraculous, because when you look at all of these other things, here's a magnetar that just shoots out some really high energy thing, or here's a galaxy where the central black hole is munching away at all the things around it and spewing out jets of energy, and these things can't do that with us, right? They can't sit there and go like, I'll try to understand those little teeny tiny fleshy things on that rock over there. But we can understand them. And that, we're tiny and we live like no time at all. But we have such an insane amount of creativity and imagination. And I think that is the coolest thing about being part of this universe.
Yeah. I have to say, you saying that to me was super soothing. Like, I'm like, oh, you're right. I have a lot of anxiety around like ability to create and to imagine things and perform at work or in whatever part of your life. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have everything I need inside my head to comprehend this.
And that's just amazing to me. Like I'm going to tell you a bit of a personal story right now. Earlier this year, I had a cancer diagnosis, which came out of the blue. Right? It was one of those, hey, you're just going to go in for your normal run-of-the-mill tests and scans and things that you do every year. And they're like, oh, hey, that's not normal. We're going to biopsy. And they're like, yeah, it's cancer. And I'm going, but no, because my family doesn't do that. Like, we die of other things. We don't die of that. And so I went through a singular chemo treatment, and then my body just said, we're not ever doing that again, and we may not ever do anything again. And it was absolutely mind-bogglingly terrifying. Managed to make it through and, did everything else that we could do. And for the time being, everything's clear again.
That's great news.
But holy crap, the number of things that you just take for granted become epic after something like that. Like, the first time I went back to pick my kids up from school, I was finally car worthy, and I just broke down. I'm gonna pick up my kids, and so everything now is just amazing, right? I'm a living being on a planet, contemplating things and doing things and oh no, I have a scratch. That's wild. I've got an immune system that's going to take over and start fixing that. And, it really does give you a seismic shift in your perception of even the everyday stuff.
Yeah, the small things are the significant things, despite your relative size to what you're studying. Yeah, I love that.
And that's been really nice to hear. When you were talking about it, the sentence that popped into my mind was, our purpose is to bear witness to ourselves, to the universe, to whatever else is around us. And that's a very soothing feeling for me.
Yeah,
Nice. Thank you for that.
And that's the Carl Sagan thing. We are the universe thinking about itself.
And so many good quotes.
We are the way that the universe can know itself. It's pretty tall order, and every single person on this planet has a different experience.
Yeah.
And that to me is pretty wild. You know, I'll just, people watch me like, what's it like for you? You know, how are you perceiving this life, this teeny tiny little scrap of it that you've been given?
Maybe that's why I love eavesdropping so much. That would explain a lot about me.
You're bearing witness, as
I'm
is
just
your,
trying to
your
bear
human
witness.
responsibility.
You're just a little stalky, maybe.
Yeah.
Either one of those, you know, put your spin on it however you want.
Well, that was very fun to get deep and philosophical. Maybe before we wrap up the episode, we lighten the mood with some rapid fire questions for you, Renée, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Favorite telescope to use?
My eyeballs.
Oh!
Ooh.
Favorite constellation?
The emu in the sky. Yeah, it's Aboriginal constellation. It's not quite the right word, but it's instead of doing the sort of little cosmic dot to dots like we see, you know, Orion and whatnot, a lot of the indigenous constellations made patterns out of the dark lanes of the Milky Way dust and everything. And so the emu is this, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just so glorious going across the Milky Way as this big, long, stretched out emu.
I
I
love
love
that.
that answer.
Okay, what about writing inspiration? Whether it's topics to write or if you get inspiration on how to write or how to approach a topic.
Sometimes my own students, when I have to try to present something to them, try to figure out the best way to tell it. In terms of, like, do you mean like inspirational authors, or
If you have one in mind, I think any place you draw inspo from, I'm curious.
So, you know, obviously Carl Sagan, but also Bill Bryson. I love the way he tells the stories to get whatever point across that he's making. And, you know, he can make the simplest thing really interesting and entertaining.
I read a history of the home that he wrote, and
Yeah.
I was fascinated the whole time. I was like, how is he making rooms in a house seem interesting?
Dude made freaking salt and pepper shakers interesting. Right? I've never thought of this before.
Yes.
This is amazing.
That is such a gift. That is so cool when people can do that. And then favorite type of transient.
Ooh, anything that gives us something in multiple messages. So, you know, like supernova 87A, we got the light, we also got the neutrinos. And then with one of the gravitational waves, 170817, we got gravitational waves and we got all the different types of light. So basically something that sends us information about itself in more than one way. You're super convenient.
Yeah, that is how I like.
It's more conscientious.
That's how I like getting info too. It's like, I'm going to need you to send this to me a few different ways.
Yeah, exactly. Try to explain this to me another way because I didn't get this first one.
Yeah, you gotta text me, you gotta email.
Yeah, put it
Gotta
on my
tell
calendar.
me in person.
Make sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Need to hear it multiple times. Oh, amazing. Well, we would love to learn more about you and where the listeners can follow you and your work online. They should definitely get this book, Things That Go Bump in the Universe. Where can they do that, and where can people find you, Renée?
So you can go straight to the Johns Hopkins University Press website and order it from there. Or if you want it a little more expeditiously, you can get the audiobook and the Kindle version from Amazon. And you can also get the hardback version from Amazon as well. And also tons and tons of other booksellers according to an internet search. And apparently it's already on eBay.
Oh, nice. And we also are including a link to it in the episode description, so people can follow that.
And
Yay.
I am, for the time being, just Dr. CRJ on Twitter.
Cool. Are you on Twitter much these days? Can people expect to hear updates from you there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go there and, you know, like the most recent thing I did was about a penguin that does 10,000 power naps in a day.
I saw that too. I was like, how do I do this?
I know. You know, I just feel like that penguin understands me really well. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I'm very much the pursuer of shiny objects, so if anything catches my attention, I'll just throw it out there.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you so much for sitting here at this beautiful bluff surrounded by eucalyptus to tell us about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a blast.
Well, it is a little chilly, so I think that we should go inside. We should have some warm beverages, but until the next time we're out here looking up at the sky together, remember, listeners, that you are space. Pale Blue Pod was created by Moiya McTier and Corinne Caputo with help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen. Our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton.
Stay in touch with us and the universe by following @PaleBluePod on Twitter and Instagram, or check out our website, palebluepod.com. We're a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. If you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
If you want to support Pale Blue Pod financially, join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod. For just about $1 per episode, you get a shout out on one of our shows and access to director's commentary for each episode. The very best way, though, to help Pale Blue Pod grow is to share it with your friends. So send this episode, this link, to one person who you think will like it, and we will appreciate you for forever.
Thanks for listening to Pale Blue Pod. You'll hear us again next week.
Bye.